And I started by talking about learning. And this is from the Book of Five Rings, the classic samurai text. So, great learning speaks of consummating knowledge and perfecting things. Consummating knowledge means knowing the principles of everything, and perfecting things means that when you know the principle of everything thoroughly, then you know everything and can do everything. When there's nothing more you know, there's nothing you can do either. When you do not know the principle, nothing at all comes to fruition. So it goes on to say, to learn sword strokes, the physical posture, the focus of the eyes, to thoroughly learn all there is to learn and practice is the spirit of consummating knowledge. Then, when you have succeeded in consummating the knowledge and learning, everything you've learned seems to disappear. Now, this is the spirit of perfecting things. Now, the samurai did not know about Fitz and Posner, but this is, you'll recognize, going from unconsciously unconscious to consciously unconscious to consciously conscious and then unconsciously conscious as you progress up the skills. But there's another level, which is reflecting on your consciousness. And I recall Simon, who is the senior registrar when I was a registrar, and he still does when he stitches. Each stitch he takes, he'll say, good shot, good shot, good shot, as he reflected on each stitch. So that is the essence of the Black Belt Academy of Surgical Skills. We are wanting to emphasize the principles, because without the principles, you cannot actually build in the rhythm. And I think two of the crucial things in surgery are rhythm and lightness of touch. And they're very difficult to teach. But I hope the Black Belt Academy is addressing this. Firstly, rhythm is something that exists in everything. But the rhythms in martial arts, and I'd say in surgery in particular, are difficult to master without practice. And that is why you need to practice. Surgery itself is a natural rhythm. There's a very interesting study that took videos of people doing laparoscopic surgery and offered them to professors and lay people and asked them to rank the rhythm and flow. What was interesting, they both were able to, the professor and the lay person, and this ranking correlated with post-operative clinical incidents. So even a lay person could watch the rhythm or lack thereof in an operation. So the idea behind this session is to go over all the sections we have done to date. It amazes me that skills labs have people sitting at tables as if they're going to eat. No, operating is not sitting at a table as if you're going to eat. That's like trying to learn golf, sitting down. Operating is like learning to iron. You wouldn't iron down here, would you? Because it feels uncomfortable. You naturally, without hesitation, take the ironing board to a level that is comfortable for you. And that comfort is realized when your shoulders are relaxed, your elbows are by the side, somewhat extended, and your hands are palmar flexed. That is the natural position. And anybody playing a piano or sitting down at a typewriter would address the posture first of all. And every surgeon going into theatre should address the posture, but as mentioned previously, be mindful of your assistant. Now what I was doing here, I was stitching a button to a shirt. And you'll find that this needle goes in and out quite easily if I make sure the needle goes 90 degrees to the shirt. But if I try and take the needle other than 90 degrees to the shirt, it doesn't go through easily. And that is the principle of stitching. The principle of stitching is the needle's got to go through the tissue on the perfect circle or curve of the needle. And that's a big needle there. And as it goes through, the hole it makes at each tangential slice should be a perfect circle with a suture sitting in the middle. Imagine a diver hitting the pool. If the diver does not hit the pool at 90 degrees, there's a big splash. And it's the same with stitching. But the secret is how do you get there? One, to maximize the pronation, supination of the forearm, we recommend that you hold the needle holder as a benediction sign. Remember, the 1, 2, 3 of mounting the needle is just beyond the halfway. There's no space between the tip of the needle holder and the needle itself, and it's angled out there because we'll be working at depth. And the perfect model that we used for stitching in the 90 degrees, remember, was our potato. And our potatoes here, microwaved. Be careful, it is hot. You've got to put out safety warnings. But the skin is soft. And the idea is that I take the needle back, point it into the potato, rotate it round, deliver it out. The potato, or the tissue holds it, pick it up, ready to use again. And if I was careless with that rotation, going in or out, the potato would tear. And each time I check that my needle is correctly mounted. And with practice, you can do this. Remember, just going in, rotating around, picking it up. And we also said sexy moves, so you can do it backwards. Round and pick it up. I put it in a basin because, of course, all our operating is at depth. And I despair when I see cardiac wet labs with a heart sitting on top of the box. Well, the heart is not on top of the box. It's in the box, in the chest. And by putting it in there, all the angles are very different. And that is why you need to practice them at depth as we've got here. Remember too, our other way of practicing was the humble banana. And taking an apple core, take the skin out of the banana, and then you've got a perfect circle on which to practice going round this banana radially at 90 degrees. And 90 degrees is the perfect angle, because you can look at these banners at the back, and if it wasn't 90 degrees, you could tell me it's 90 degrees. But this is an important element, and this is my teacup, or thinking critically under pressure, when presented with a poor vessel or a dissection. I'm thinking to myself, place the needle across what I want to stitch, rotate the needle back, so that's place at 90 degrees across what I want to stitch, rotate the needle back so it's 90 degrees into what I want to stitch. I've unlocked it at that stage, and then I simply rotate the needle through the tissue. So it's place 90 degrees, point 90 degrees, and rotate. What you're letting the needle go is if you're throwing a ball. And that is my teacup with bad vessels. But this, going round here, will actually teach you to think that going round in a circle that you need to adjust your body position. Because at this angle here, I'm standing in my right foot, and I can angle it out. But each point in the circle or anastomosis has got to be at 90 degrees. You can see here it's now getting difficult. So in that position, I would necessarily come backwards to come round at 90 degrees. And now you'll see my weight, I've changed to my left foot. And again, almost diagonally opposite, is a backhand before I come forehand again. So my movement around the table is dynamic as well. The other thing then we talked about was the knife. And everybody grips the knife difficult and really hard. But the first fundamental principle is to be able to mount a blade properly. To hold it on the blunt side with a hemostat, point it into the table, align the bevel, align the edges, and slip it on. And you make sure it's pulled home. And we said you hold a knife like a knife. It's between the middle finger, the thumb, with the index finger down the middle. But it's lightness of touch that is important. And tissue planes are a bit like pages of a book. You don't cut in to the planes. You hold the knife gently and you brush against the plane, and you brush the tissue away gently with no force. In tissue planes, we said, we're bloodless. There you go. Bring the knife gently across your tissue plane. The same applies, we said, when using the scissors. They are held between the ring finger, thumb, and balanced between the middle finger with the index finger extended. And you can see that the tips of the fingers are held in the rings. Lightness of touch. And you never open your scissors any more than necessary to actually do the job. The reverse is true. Upside down, ENT hold. Again, tips of the fingers with my small finger extended down the scissors again, never opening it any more than necessary to do the job. Lightness of touch. Where this is particularly true as well is the use of your forceps. The forceps are cradled in the hand, resting between the index and thumb and on the middle finger, and you close your index finger and thumb around the forceps using those beautiful muscles of the hands called the lumbricals. The only muscles in the body that do not have a bony insertion or origin. And that's where the lightness of touch comes again. Your hands can move in every direction because of the beauty of your wrist, your elbow and your shoulder. And to practice this, we suggested that simply picking up grains of rice and dropping them into straws. And you can time yourself and call out coloured rice each time. If you grab it too hard, the rice actually slips off the table. Grab it softly, and there you go, and we can drop them in. It's amazing. You don't do this for a couple of weeks, and you can feel it yourself. And it's often said, if you don't operate for a week, you notice it. If you don't operate for 2 weeks, your assistant notices it. And if you don't operate for 3 weeks, your patient notices it. So why then don't we practice? And do we practice before we go into theatre? I only know of a couple of surgeons, and they are cochlear or ENT surgeons, who practice prior to going into theatre. Everybody else on the planet would practice going into theatre. So that was using your forceps. Remember then, the other exercise we talked about were our knots. And our knots, to identify a reef or flat knot, uncrossed knot, as opposed to a cross knot or granny knot. And as you recall, I explained this is exactly why your shoelaces come undone. Because you can pull that and voila, it's undone. I can pull this and voila, it tightens itself. So I hope you've been reflecting on how you tie your shoelaces. And with a simple piece of string and a coat hanger, I hope to see that they're festooned with flat knots and you've tied them. Wilson sent me a very interesting paper. Wilson is a cardiac surgeon in Sao Paulo, and he sent me a paper of a team that actually measured the pressure that was put on the knot between a consultant surgeon tying a knot and a trainee. And as expected, there was a difference. And the difference is that the surgeon, consultant, expert surgeon, used less pressure. Remember this simple model. A plastic cup, blue tacked to a plate with a pencil, and the important principle is your finger has got to stay on the knot. I'm not pulling hard and I'm not pressing hard, but the secret is that my finger is on the knot each time. Finger on the knot. Finger on the knot. Finger on the knot. And his paper he sent, he didn't write it, but he found it, and it's online and ready to be published apparently, demonstrated that the expert surgeon was much more efficient at using their hands and used a much, much lighter touch. You recall in our last episode that we tied off balloons. This is a balloon, the tip of which I tied off last week, and I tried to get a balloon to deflate with one of my knots. So let's try this week. I'm going to cut the tip of the balloon, and unfortunately, no matter how hard I tried, I could not tie a bad knot. And that is the essence of practice. You don't practice until you get it right. You practice until you can't get it wrong. And that is what practice was all about. Oh, there you go, with force, to prove to you I did cut the balloon. So that was a whirlwind through what we have covered to date in the Black Belt Academy of Surgical Skills. I'm sorry that we have had some sound problems on this microphone at home, some plug-in microphone to a phone, but in some respects I feel that emphasizes that you don't need a fancy wet lab. And the problem is with some of these high-tech labs, they're behind closed doors, locked up because they're too expensive and they're not available. Mastery of surgery starts with mastering the principles and the basics. And you can do that at home. But it's important that you do it deliberately and you practice until you can't get it wrong. We hope that we'll be opening our Black Belt Academy of Surgical Skills in Leeds, Sheffield, Liverpool, Hull, Oxford, London, Portsmouth. And we hope that we can bring this to you, because it is important that your practicing is actually regularly overseen, that you're doing it correctly. Because mastery can only come by practicing it correctly and regularly and deliberately. I hope you've enjoyed this series. We're going to return in July and on Wednesday evenings, and we'll start again at the beginning, and in that time I'll be looking at my IT support. A special welcome to Nick and the Sheffield Surgical Society, and we hope to bring this to you in Sheffield soon. I hope you can join us when we start again in July on Wednesdays. I've put a questionnaire on the Facebook page asking for your opinion and your ideas. If you have any queries or want any questions answered, please do not hesitate to contact us, or preferably fill in that questionnaire and we'll try and address all your questions and concerns. If you have liked this, Please give a thumbs up on the Facebook page. You'll see the videos are available on our website, bbass.org, with a syllabus. I've given a written summary of our lessons on the site, and you'll also see our paper that's soon to be published, talking about 90 degrees, the perfect angle, and the perfect way of stitching. I hope that makes sense. I hope you use the resource. I hope you keep in touch. And thank you very much indeed for joining the Black Belt Academy of Surgical Skills. Wherever you are in the world, and whatever you're doing, I hope we have stimulated you to practice. I hope you enjoy your practice. I hope you're safe. Wish you well, and please be safe. Thank you very much.